world, and welcome to my October wrap-up. If I sound a little bit ill, that's because I am. I actually am getting over Corona, so I'm doing okay, I'm fine. Just letting you know I'm not completely fine yet. But yeah, this is my October wrap-up. I did read a lot of spooky books and had a lot of fun with it. But the first one I want to tell you about is something completely different that I just finished in the beginning of October. So let's begin with talking about We Were Dreamers by Simu Liu. If you're not familiar, Simu Liu is the actor who played Shang-Chi, the Marvel superhero. He did a really good job of that, by the way. Really amazing film. And yeah, I saw a couple of interviews with him after watching the movie, and I just thought he was so interesting and charming. And then he announced that he's gonna put out an autobiography, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. I've been getting into memoirs recently. And so I picked up his autobiography, and oh my god, I love this so much. This man is so diverse and complex and multi-layered and intelligent and funny and interesting. Just it felt like every couple of pages there was something completely new to discover about him and his story and his thoughts, and it felt really nice to read it. It's also really interestingly layered because it's kind of 3 parts, and in the first one he kind of talks about Chinese history in connection with the story of his grandparents and his parents, so it's kind of a little bit like history lesson with a personal note, and I learned so much about Chinese history that I never knew before, so that was really interesting. And then the second part is his childhood and teenage years with his parents, where he talks a lot about what it's like to be the child of an immigrant, and the kind of expectations and pressures, and yes, also about abuse and difficult situations with your parents. It wasn't the best years of his life, let's put it like that. So much emotion in those chapters. And then the last part is his acting and Hollywood journey, and yeah, how he became the actor he is today, how he got famous, how the entire community of Asian actors helped him, and that it made me cry so much. It's really sweet to know that everyone's supporting each other, and yeah, it was such an interesting journey to follow him through, and he's such a cool person. He's so intelligent and so clever and so funny and empathetic and just thoughtful, and I thought I knew a lot about him before reading this book, and then there was so many completely new things about him that I never expected to learn. And yeah, Simu Liu is such a cool, interesting, complex person, and I really recommend this. Even if you don't know him, even if you haven't seen him acting anywhere, I really recommend this book. It's so well done. I'm definitely gonna reread it. And for me personally, a fun part of it was also that I'm currently watching his show Kim's Convenience Store with a friend of mine, so every week we watch one episode. So whilst I was reading this, every week I gave her a little snippet of what I was reading and a little fun fact about him. And so that was an extra bonus, and now I'm watching that show, and it's also really well done. So also recommend Kim's Convenience Store. And yeah, this was such a good read. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about all these spooky books I read in October. I had such a fun time. And obviously I had to start with my main girl, Mary Shelley. I just love her so much, and recently I picked up this small little collection. These are 3 of her short stories, and it was really interesting because I've actually never read anything by her other than Frankenstein. I've read Frankenstein 5 times now, but I've never read anything else by Mary Shelley. So now I have. Yeah, these are 3 short stories, and my favorite one was The Mortal Immortal, and then there's also The Transformation and The Evil Eye, which that last one is reminder that Mary Shelley is a white woman of privilege in a not so great time. And let's be real, she was probably pretty racist. It's just, yeah, Evil Eye is not a good story. Just gonna put that out there, little reminder to you and myself. Even though I love her writing, I don't agree with all the things she says. Yeah, so that, you know. But the Transformation and especially the Mortal Immortal were such amazing stories. Like, you really can tell that she just has a way of figuring things out within the story, and especially the thing I personally love about her is how she like writes about men who make really bad decisions and then think that they are the victim of the consequences of those decisions, and she crosses the line sometimes, but mostly she stays like on the line really well of trying to be in their point of view and writing the story from their point of view and like conveying that they think they are the victim, but then also like making it very clear that it is their fault. Just, yeah, I really enjoy that. So now I read these 3 short stories by her and I know more about her as a person. Then I read 2 books that I don't currently have with me. I read Unsterblich sind nur die Anderen by Simone Buchholz. Simone Buchholz is a really famous German author, and she does write a lot of things that I'm not interested in. But this one was promoted as a zombie story, and I thought, you know what, it's October, let's get into it. And it was so fucking good. It's like a new favorite. It was so amazing. It was really, really original, but I found parts of like James Joyce and Haruki Murakami and Jenny Yen, like all these very different influences. It's different writing styles. There's like a little bit of theater, a little bit of poetry, a little bit of dialogue, and it's just so unique, and you never know what's gonna happen next, and just it's a really, really, really amazing story. It's so good. I can really recommend it, and yeah, it blew my mind. I just couldn't stop reading. I read it within 1 day, and I did really want to immediately read it again, but I didn't. But I read it within 1 day, and every time I got up to like get something to eat or something, I just didn't. I didn't eat that day because I put the book aside, stood up, and thought, you know what, no, I want to keep reading, and I just kept reading. It was so good. And then the other one is Demon in the Woods by Bardugo. This is the graphic novel kind of backstory of the Darkling, and it's really beautifully illustrated. It has a lot of like purple and black and blue tones. It's really gorgeous. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Darkling, and I don't really care about his story. I did just read it because it was really beautiful, and I thought, you know what, I want to know what's up. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he's evil and he killed everyone, but like, look, he has a tragic backstory. I just don't care. It's well done within the story, it's well written, it forms his character, it's beautifully illustrated. Like, technically, it's a good story. I just don't care, to be honest. And then I did a little reread. This is by Ende, der Wunschpunsch. I'm not gonna even attempt to say the entire title, der Wunschpunsch. Basically, this was a TV show when I was little, and I remember really enjoying it, but it always was on TV when I was in school. So I never actually got to see all of it. I only ever got to see like a couple of episodes when I wasn't in school, and it really bothered me. So at some point my grandpa bought me the book and I read it, and I remember really, really loving it. But that was, I think, 16 years ago now. So I remember nothing. And I thought it was really funny in my memory. And probably when I was a child it was really funny, and I really like thought it was like entertaining. And then I reread it, and there's so much political commentary in it that I did not remember, probably did not pick up at as a child. So this is about a wizard who is basically doing climate catastrophes with his magic. And then it's about two animals trying to stop him. It was still really funny. It just was a lot more dark and like social and political than I thought. But yeah, it was fun to reread it. The things you forget in 16 years. And then I read Cleopatra&Frankenstein by Mellors. This isn't technically a spooky book, it's just because of the title, which is also the only reason I bought it. And it's also really pretty, like look at that, that's gorgeous. But yeah, this isn't really a spooky book, it's just that their names are Cleo and Frank, so Cleopatra and Frankenstein. And it's this story of Cleo and Frank who get married, and it's sort of mostly for her visa, but also not completely. And it's just the story of them and their friends and their family all living in New York and like what they're up to. And first of all, it's beautifully written. Stunning sentences, just really poetic, thoughtful, just delicious words, really nice. Secondly, I was mesmerized by the structure. I thought it was such a cool idea because it's basically one chapter either Cleo or Frank, and then one chapter one of their friends or family members or like people they're involved with who was a side character in their chapter, and then like that person point of view, and then it's back to Cleo or Frank, and then back to another person who was a side character in their story. And just this back and forth is really, really interesting, not only because it gives you such a complex view of different lives in New York at the time, and like all these different lifestyles and people and all of that, but also because it gives you a really complex, multi-layered view of their story, because obviously Cleo and Frank have an idea of what they think is going on with their relationship, and then you get these like insights of people around them and how they view them, and it kind of contradicts each other. It also kind of like helps each other out at some points, and it's just really, really interesting and makes it such an interesting, like almost puzzle, but with pieces that don't fit together. It was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed reading it. I will give trigger warnings for self-harm and animal death, because those are described in detail. So if you want to read it, be warned about that. But it is just really beautifully written. It's kind of a slow story, but with a lot of depth, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then finally, to come to an end with my spooky month, I decided, you know what, I started the month with Mary Shelley, I'm gonna end the month with something related to Mary Shelley. I've been wanting to read The Vampyr by John Polidori for ages, basically since I've read Frankenstein, because this is one of the other stories that was written in that like kind of game where she wrote Frankenstein, and I've been wanting to read this for ages, but I never had the chance to. There isn't like only this story to buy, so I finally just, you know, bought a collection of short stories that has John Polidori's The Vampyr in it. And I finally read it, and it's so good. It is so good. I don't like vampire stories, gonna be honest here. So I didn't love it, but the writing is so well done. It's really, really cool. I thought the writing style was kind of a mix of Mary Shelley and George Eliot, who are two of my favorite authors. So I really, really enjoyed it. It was really fun. It was really male, if you know what I mean. So I also enjoyed making fun of it a little bit. But yeah, I'm really glad I read it. And also in this collection is Lord Byron's like letters to the public saying that Polidori stole the idea from him and like 3 pages of the story he started but never finished, which isn't good. Like, first of all, the little bit that he wrote is so much worse than Polidori's. I don't know why he put that out in public. And second of all, I just find it really funny that these 2 men are publicly fighting over who came up with this vampire story when you have Mary Shelley inventing the science fiction genre next to them. Just, you know, man. But yeah, I'm also glad that I read that. I feel like I have more context for everything now, and I'm really glad I did this. And yeah, it was a really fun time. So that brings us to the end of my spooky October wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about, or if you have any questions. I had a really nice reading month. It was so fun to just get in the mood. And now I'm moving on. I've actually started getting into the winter mood a little bit. I'm really enjoying it. But the book I'm currently reading is Afterlives by Gurnah, who won the Nobel Prize of Literature last year. And I actually got to see him talk about his books with my dad a couple of weeks ago. First of all, this man has a really beautiful dark voice. It's just really nice to hear him talk. But he also has a lot of interesting things to say. His books are kind of about the German colonization of mostly Tanzania, and now I am reading his latest book. His writing style is beautiful, gorgeous. Obviously the topic is really gruesome, so I'm having a little bit of trouble with it, but I'm really not enjoying it per se, but I'm learning from it. Let's put it like that. I think it's a really good book, and I'm enjoying learning. Let's say it like that. But I'm not that far into it yet, so that's my current read. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you always have a reason to smile, and I shall see you soon. Bye!